Alright, welcome back everybody to Gemology for Schmucks. My name is Peter Nelson and this is Justin Prim. I would like to introduce...
Hello.
Now, Justin is a lapidary friend of mine. And Justin, I've got a question for you. Is there a difference between a lapidary and a gem cutter?
In my opinion, no. There's just different words that have come from different cultures. Lapidary is, I think, a bit of an older word now. And I would feel like most people that if you told them the word lapidary, they wouldn't know. Even in French, lapidary, where it comes from, they also wouldn't know. The regular person doesn't know what a lapidary is.
Huh. Okay.
But everyone probably knows what a gem cutter is, so.
Well, that's awesome. Now, I have a question for you. I bought this at the synthetic market a couple of weeks back, and I'm curious, and I'm sure all our viewers are as well, how do you turn something like this into a gemstone? Can you explain a little bit of what you do and how that process works?
Okay, so this is a synthetic sapphire boule.
Yep.
From the Chinese market. I've been there before. So basically when we're starting with a stone, whether it be a synthetic like this or a rough natural stone, it still is going to go through the same process. So we're going to go with, well, the rough stage, which is what this is in now, or it could be the stone as it's come out of the mine, the rough gem. Then well, in this case, since it's so big, we would saw it. That's still part of the rough, I guess. But the first transformation is going to be the preforming step. So the preforming means we're going to cut this and make it into a certain shape, roughly. And then once we have the preform done, the preform is going to tell us what the shape of the stone is going to be like, you know, what if it's a cushion, if it's an oval, if it's round. And it's also going to dictate the depth of the stone. So in a piece of synthetic like this, we can pretty much do anything we want because it's so big. But you know, if you've got a natural sapphire that's tiny and funny shaped, you know, we have to be very conscious about how we shape the preform and follow the shape of the rough in order to not lose too much of the stone. So then once we have taken our preform and we start faceting it and polishing it and transform it to the final gem, that's the third stage, which is, well, the final stone. So basically preforming, cutting, polishing, those are going to be our 3 steps. And then the 3 stages will be rough, preform, polish.
So tell me, what do you use to go through the process of preforming it, polishing it, and all these things?
Well, mostly actually, at least in my technique, you can do everything on the same machine.
Okay.
So the faceting machine that I use can change discs, the grinding discs. So you can do preforming laps, which are very rough, cutting laps, and polishing laps. And the way that the laps work, it's kind of like working with wood. You have a rough grit sandpaper, medium grit, fine grit. Gemstones are sort of the same way. You've got a rough grit lap, a medium grit lap, and then you get a finer grit lap. And you can go through all the steps. Though in some places like Sri Lanka, where people get very, very good at just doing one job, like you could just become a preformer in Sri Lanka. And a preformer might have a dedicated machine that operates a little bit differently for just preforming.
And that's all they do?
Yeah, because it's more comfortable to preform on a wheel that goes like this, whereas for me, I'm preforming upside down, as we might see here in a little bit.
Okay, then let's check out your machine.
Okay.
United States have in mind this perfect stone. They're like, I want an Asher cut, I want it 5 or 10 carats, and I want it this color. But I'm noticing that as I go around in the market and I'm looking for these perfect stones, as people describe them to me, they're not always there. So what would you as a lapidary or a gem cutter suggest to people? It's like, if you have something in mind, what's the best way to get it?
That's a good question. So if you already have a stone, that makes one step easier. But if you are just starting from scratch, you have a dream, you have a vision, you need to be able to find the gem cutter who's going to be able to give you your custom stone. You know, if you're looking for something that's not easily available on the market, right?
And what would be the steps to find a gem cutter? It's like, this isn't just you pop over to Walmart and then they've got the pharmacy and then the gem cutter right next to them, right?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way to look for a gem cutter, you know, if you aren't connected in the trade at all where you can ask your local network, then I would say look to maybe Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
There's tons of gem cutters on both.
And you can see their previous work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Through.
I mean, Instagram acts as a sort of portfolio for gem cutters, so you can go back and see their previous work. You know, a lot of people know us through Instagram because they see stuff that we post. I think that would be the best way. You can ask the cutter, if you're going to recut a stone from an existing stone, maybe you want to go and do the shopping of the stone yourself, and you could ask them, what size stone should I look for if I want to make this?
Okay, so you've got in mind the proportions of the stone that you already want.
Yeah.
So in order to make this possible, we have to have this original stone to recut it.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think that would be the best way, because you don't want to blindly just purchase a stone and give it to someone to cut, because
it may not be possible.
yeah, or maybe you're going to lose too much weight, more than you anticipated. So
and loss of weight is loss of money, right?
exactly. And if we're talking about, you know, rubies and sapphires and stuff like that, then losing some size could be losing thousands of dollars. So we would like to avoid that.
Yeah, I would like to keep that $1,000.
And I mean, if you know you're going to lose some weight, you could potentially spend more money on a slightly smaller stone of a better color, instead of buying a bigger stone that you're going to grind down.
Right.
And you know, it's more efficient with your money.
And what other services would you say a lapidary has? Obviously, you can go from rough or a pre-cut stone and then reshape it to an ideal stone. But what other things can you do? We've talked about some like telltale flaws in gemstones before. We've talked about things like window and extinction. Is there something that a lapidary can do about those stones that have window or extinction?
Yeah, definitely. Almost always there are some ways that the stone can be improved. I mean, the window is the most obvious and the most common problem that people ask us to work on. You know, you want to get better color, better light return out of your stone. So we can actually go and look at it. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to do this financially because the stone's not a good shape.
And too much weight loss.
Too much weight loss, exactly. But you know, we can manipulate the angles of the stone to close the window, to give you that good reflection. But some of the other things that we do could be repolishing. So, like let's say maybe you've inherited grandmom's stone.
Or you talk with your hands like me.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, a lot of times you do see a 100-year-old sapphire, and it's very, very abraded.
Sure.
On the facet junctions, on the table.
So bad polish, maybe some chips, things like that.
I mean, sometimes they're bad polish from the start, but sometimes they're just old. And so we can go through and, you know, repolish all the facet surfaces, make the points sharp again, and a lot of times even just the simple repolishing, which almost loses no weight, can have a dramatic transformation on the stone if it's very abraded because the light's not coming in.
Okay.
So, closing windows, repolishing, of course, changing the shape, changing the faceting pattern. That's going to take a little bit more work and loss of weight, but I mean, really, the sky is the limit. But the common things we do would be repolishing, closing windows, and possibly changing the shape for a specific project.
Okay. All right. And so we're actually going to show you a Cinderella story of a stone that was cut in maybe less than ideal way, a really wonky shape, but had a nice color. And so what was done is the stone got reshaped, it closed the window, and brightened it up a lot more. So let's check that out. So Justin, if somebody is interested in becoming a lapidary or a gem cutter, what would you suggest to them? What are the options?
Well, my opinion, one of the best ways that we could do it is in Bangkok. You know, we have a school out here, the Institute of Gem Trading, where we're teaching gem cutting. It's a 2-week course, and you're going to learn about all the things we talked about here. You know, the pre-forming, the cutting, the polishing, the recutting, the repolishing, all the basic foundational things that we need to know.
And you can start from zero, like I know nothing about stones?
That's what it's intended for, is
Okay.
for anyone who doesn't know anything. You don't even need to be a gemologist. You could come in knowing nothing.
Okay.
Having some gemology background helps, of course, because the cutter really does need to know how to understand the crystal structure and the differences between gemstones, but it is possible to pick it up as you go.
Awesome. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below if you want to check out that school. Also, I'd like to mention that there is an Etsy shop that you may want to check out some of these artists' fine works. That will also be in the description below. Some very new designs. We were talking about demystifying gem cuts, how lapidaries are coming up with new styles all the time, right? So you're going to find some very unique and sometimes reinventations of old cuttings as well. We have a lapidary historian right here, and you can check out his channel, and he talks all about cutting styles for the past several hundred years. Check it out, it's very cool. All right, Justin, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
Stay
being
safe
here.
in this lockdown, and everybody, thank you for joining us on Gemology for Schmucks. We hope this has enriched you and that you're making the best use of your time during lockdown as well. Stay safe, wash your hands, hug your loved ones and all that, but don't cough on them. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.